Previously on TW Wrestling Talk.
This is a big opportunity that WWE can either screw up or take advantage of.
So, last week on TW Wrestling Talk, we had a bit of a technical difficulty, if you ask me. If you saw the video or listened to it, then obviously the processing of the video essentially, made me sound like a chipmunk for whatever reason, and I decided I wasn't gonna just totally scrap the whole production, and I wasn't gonna do it over, and just have a one-off edition of TW Wrestling Talk in a more in a high-pitched fashion, and now we're back to form here, without the chipmunk effects. So it'll be good, good on that note. It made me think of funny incident when several years ago around this time, DX messed with Vince McMahon's microphone, and it almost came off as one of those deals with me, and exactly, and so now I normalized my mic. I got DX in my production unit, and they normalized the mic, so we should be all right for this edition of TW Wrestling Talk. But with all kidding aside, let's get on to business here. First of all, we have a rather potential news update, breaking news, whatever you want to call it, right here on TW Wrestling Talk. The show may be expanding personnel-wise. Talked to a friend of mine, and I might start having a multi-person show here on TW Wrestling Talk, or at least shows, I should say. So that's in right now. It's in working process here, and getting that idea together. But if all of a sudden multiple voices pop up on this YouTube channel, that obviously it'll be announced when it becomes more definitive, and when obviously it'll be noted, of course, whenever whenever changes take place. But with all that aside, now let's get on to talking about a pay-per-view we call Payback, that took place this past night as I record this edition of TW Wrestling Talk. And now, I'm not gonna rip. I didn't get to see the pay-per-view, due to my work schedule, and due to just nobody, including myself, nobody really got it. But I don't even know if I would have gotten it anyways. So with that, I mean, I got to give myself, that limit that I can't really critique, the matches as far as their, characteristics, how things went exactly, as I didn't see the action. So I got to give myself one of those, for that matter. But this pay-per-view to me was definitely results oriented, and maybe I didn't see how the matches went. For instance, I read that CM Punk and Chris Jericho had a great match, with CM Punk winning, and that doesn't surprise me at all. Jericho, he has plenty left in the tank, and that shows when he's facing a guy like CM Punk, rather than someone like Fandango.
I agree.
So and CM Punk is he's definitely one of the best, if not the best, in the industry today. So I don't even really have to talk about it. It's I'm sure I would have loved that match, and unfortunately, I didn't get to see it. That was probably the highlight of the pay-per-view, if you ask me, from what I've been reading. And aside from that, I mean, if you haven't heard, you're hearing it now. An announcement was made that Rob Van Dam is going to be returning to WWE, and that is going to be at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, from what I hear. Which I assume he's going to be in the Money, or last year they had two Money in the Bank matches, um, and so from what I hear, he's going to be in a Money in the Bank match. That's what they're planning, I guess, and that would make sense, of course. Um, some say that he's way over the hill, and but he's going to be on a part-time schedule. Um, and I know what some people are thinking. Oh, great, we got another part-timer to take the spotlight. But I think this was in the making for a little while now. People have been speculating for months now when he was going to come back, whether or not Rob Van Dam was going to come back. And now it sounds like he's going to be back in a Money in the Bank match at that pay-per-view next month. So to me, this is good news. That's Rob Van Dam can perform in the ring, no question about it. Great wrestler. And in a Money in the Bank match, certainly that's great environment for him to thrive in. So I don't care what people say about all part-timers, taking the spotlight and stuff. Really, the part-timers, that cut the Rock, Brock Lesnar, and now RVD, um, those guys aren't a problem. In I'll kind of get to what real problems, where the real problems lie in WWE with this pay-per-view now. As I've pretty much hit all of the major good things in this from this pay-per-view. A good thing, I guess you could say, is that Curtis Axel is Intercontinental Champion. That's perhaps one last good thing I can say about this pay-per-view. From what I've read, again, Curtis Axel's Intercontinental Champion. That's good. I think that's a good start. He's kind of fresh out of the, from being off TV for a while. He's back, and he's been back obviously for a month, but with Paul Heyman, a new guy to build. We'll see how it works out. And Intercontinental Champion, I think it's appropriate, and I think a lot of us saw it coming. And now, maybe I mean, between The Miz and Wade Barrett, I mean, they might continue a story there with The Miz maybe feuding with Curtis Axel more, whatever. But the way I look at it, it's time to take Wade Barrett, and if they're not going to have him in the Intercontinental picture any longer, it's time to take him and push him higher. That's the bottom line. It's time to push him where they could have and should have, tried to push him when he made his return almost a year ago. So it's time for them to do that, because when he returned, late last summer, I believe it was, to me, it seemed like it's like they started his career over. It's like he had never been there. It's like, all right, you're gonna face Yoshitatsu, who's on TV maybe once every 3 months. I don't, if that, nowadays. So it's time. It's time to build Wade Barrett up. That's all I'll say from there. For now. So yeah, I mean, you got those things. You got the Shield retaining their titles. That's good. I mean, everybody speculated that, though. Did I just say speculated? I think I just created my own word there. Speculated, expected, and speculated rolled into one. So, but yeah, that's everybody speculated. I think I'm going to use that more often now. Speculated that the Shield would retain their titles. No surprises there. Now we get on to now we roll our sleeves up here and we get down to some real business here. Um, I'll finish with the I'll finish off with this edition of TW Wrestling Talk, and a little later with the WWE Championship. We'll go up the ladder here slowly. First of all, the Divas Championship. Um, this pay per view with these titles. I mean, unfortunately, this pay per view was rather counterproductive, if you ask me. Now, if anybody even cares about the Divas division, I mean, you know, I don't place too much, passion behind it, really, because WWE has, for the most part, told us in recent years, the way they've booked things, the way they've handled the Divas division, they've essentially, sent the message that they've convinced me that it's not important. And so, after seeing AJ win the championship, the fact that she's in the picture, the title picture, it continues to, just make me feel like, okay, well, the Divas division is important. Because Caitlyn is a much better in-ring performer than AJ is. The only thing AJ has going for her, I guess, is heel heat. This whole crazy, psycho girl gimmick, whatever you want to call it. And it just, I don't get it. As far as I'm concerned, if you want to, I mean, I explained this before, and I offered this idea before, and it's quite simple, but I guess WWE doesn't want to do it. You want a better Divas division, you want to improve that, then you got to let the you got like diva like Caitlyn, who can definitely put on a good match. I think with a better wrestling diva, if they found a better wrestling heel diva, have them go out there one of these times for the Divas Championship at these pay-per-views and put on a 15, 20-minute match, with maybe more than one finisher and, something like that. Something that they could certainly use. And, you got a diva like Tamina with, wrestling, with, a family background in wrestling. And, you could use someone like that. Of course, they had Karma, and then that whole thing happened, you know, with her getting pregnant, and since then we haven't seen her. So it's a little unfortunate. I mean, they had, that they had a possibility there with the Divas division, to legitimize it. It's not. I mean, I guess with AJ as champion, I mean, it's going to continue. We're going to continue to see 3-minute diva matches, um, as long as there's only so few divas that can really wrestle like Caitlyn. Um, I mean, for Christ's sake, she was the only diva I can think of that speared people. I mean, that's pretty cool to me. So again, I mean, the Divas division just continues to be, worthless, if you ask me. Um, when the diva that really can wrestle pretty well, has to drop the title to a diva that just doesn't wrestle too well, and just, I guess only has the title because there's no other divas that anybody else even cares about, and I guess because she's got this crazy girl gimmick that WWE is, high on. What, I'd say whatever. Um, I'll continue to not really care much about the Divas division. Um, the World Heavyweight Championship match. The more things happen here, it makes me think that, that was such a bad omen when Dolph Ziggler took that concussion. Unfortunately, I mean, they had at least they had a decent triple threat. I mean, decent if you want to call it decent. They had a triple threat match in line for Del Rio, Ziggler, and Swagger, and unfortunately that never took place. I mean, involving those three guys, that probably would have been the best course of action. But No, at Payback I'm sorry, at Extreme Rules we got a stupid I Quit match where the referee was absolutely obsessed with asking, every 10 seconds whether, this guy wanted to quit and that guy wanted to quit. And it had a stupid finish. Um, and then it had another stupid finish. If you watch the pay-per-view, but I'm not gonna dwell on that. Something from a month ago now. Um, because right here we kind of have another counterproductive failure on WWE's. Although it's a deliberate failure to me. I mean, they put the World Heavyweight Championship back on Alberto Del Rio, which makes me wonder. Okay, are they about to tour Mexico again? And it's like I think of it as like a joke, but it's just not a funny one because to me Del Rio still has yet to really prove anything to me that makes me think he should be World Heavyweight Champion, let alone end Dolph Ziggler's championship reign after what? How many title defenses did he even have? Was it like one? It was probably one silly one, um, you know, not long after he won the title, I think. That might have been it. And then he gets the concussion, and then here not long after his first defense at a pay-per-view, and oh, what do you know? That he lost it to Del Rio. Um, to me, a deliberate failure, and it's silly, really. I mean, the roof blew off the place when Ziggler cashed in for a reason, and that he was finally being utilized, be world heavyweight champion the way he should have been. I mean, it boggles my mind how much WWE seemed to hesitate to put the championship on him when Del Rio, it's just like, you didn't do anything, but I guess we're gonna tour Mexico. Well, let's just slap the World Heavyweight Championship on him. Look, WWE, if you want, if you want, Mexican fans to or whatever to latch on to somebody, if you want a big guy that's gonna be big and really cater to those Mexican fans or whatever, then find somebody else because find somebody that's going to appeal to everybody because Del Rio to me only seems to appeal to a select audience, not a very big one. To everyone else, he's just kind of blah, and especially to me. And it's really to me it's really a shame. Um, and I can't really say much more other than that. Now, for the only good here that I speculate that has happened, from what I've been reading, is that there was like a double turn that came out of this. That Ziggler is a baby face now from whatever happened with the match, and Del Rio is like a heel now. We'll see how that proceeds as we come to Monday Night Raw and all that. We'll wait and see how that really turns out, if that's really true. And if it is, I've been kind of saying for a long time, Ziggler could use a turn as a baby face, I think, and not continue to just have like this cheap win gimmick that he seems to have, where all his wins are because other people help or he cheats or whatever. Um, Del Rio, babyface or heel, I don't care because he doesn't prove anything to me night in, night out. The gimmick is just it's boring. I don't understand it really. His wrestling is for the most part bland. His gimmick's bland. His mic I don't understand half the words he says sometimes on the mic, and he talks too fast. I mean, there's just no. It just doesn't gel with me at all. So there's so many guys that they could easily replace him with. that it's not even funny. And you know, Dolph Ziggler as a babyface taking the spot like that, if he has World Heavyweight Championship back, that to me that would work out well. And then you have Orton turn heel and stop being, irrelevant, and and you're in business. That's the way I look at it. Um, I don't know what else is to come out of this. Maybe with this, Ziggler will be thrown back into the Money in the Bank match and win for the SmackDown. And then, I don't know. But as it stands right now, to me, this was counterproductive. Ziggler finally gets that World Heavyweight Championship, and look how quick WWE is to take it away from him. Even though they left it slide with the concussion and all. Oh, well, it didn't really matter because then Del Rio comes in and takes it anyway. So it was a failure to me, if you ask me, and it's a shame. And that just brings us to the WWE Championship match. Again, it was 3 stages of hell match. I'm sure it had its moments. But ultimately, Ryback gets the pinfall, surprisingly, with the lumberjack part. Everyone thought that, Ryback would take the pinfall there and then win the tables aspect. So, maybe WWE thought it'd be amusing that they do the reverse there, but anyhow, ultimately the match ended with Ryback getting getting attitude adjusted, if whatever you want to call it, however you want to put it. John Cena doing the attitude adjustment on Ryback on top of the ambulance, making the roof, apparently making him collapse through the roof, and I guess laying in the ambulance, making it a way to call the match, I guess. Now, there's a few ways I can take this, but ultimately, either way, it's got crap written all over it to me. First of all, let's look at the logic of it. All right. I'm sorry. No ambulance is a real ambulance if somebody gets put, on their back, given an AA like that, and if the roof really collapses, if somebody really goes through the roof that bad, then what's the roof made of? Cardboard? Come on. What kind? Seriously, Ryback. Maybe he's a big guy. He's a near 300-pound guy. But this is an ambulance roof we're talking here. This is silly. If you think that an AA is going to would really cause Ryback to go through the roof of an ambulance, that has rigged written all over it, and it makes things look silly and exaggerated. John Cena could have probably AA'd Ryback off the roof of the stadium, of the arena that they were performing in Chicago, and then onto an ambulance down below, and maybe the roof would cave in a little bit, but it sure as heck wouldn't. Ryback sure as heck wouldn't go through it. Come on, WWE. This is silly. That's not a real. I'm sorry. That's what kind of ambulance would have a roof that fragile? Makes your product look a little silly, makes it look rigged, and I know what people are going to say. Oh, well, that might be part of the story. That might, set up a rematch. It'll make Ryback mad, and Ryback will point out that, the ambulance roof broke, and that's the only reason that he lost, and blah, blah, blah. And if that's the bottom line, is it's counterproductive. Whether they want to set up a third match here, heading to the Money in the Bank or what, it doesn't matter, because they got procrastination written all over it. Um, I mean, once at Extreme Rules, we saw what happened. That had a stupid finish. The ref, nobody counts. Nobody counted to 10 or anything. They didn't show anybody count to 10, but they just decided to end it there anyways. So, that was silly, and it had rip off written all over it. Here, it's not too much of a difference either. Kind of has rip off written all over it, if you ask me. The fact that a roof of an ambulance would be that rigged that it would break, and then that's just silly. Sure, maybe you look at it one hand and John Cena gets the win, but Ryback kind of got ripped off and whatnot. But I don't. I put that aside and I don't care, because I heading this pay-per-view, I said you do one of two things. You have Ryback win. You can start making progress with him that is much needed. You have him lose here, and you continue to have all these pay-per-view losses of almost a year, the better part of a year now. We're getting close to a year that has, an entire year that has featured heaps of losses with Ryback at pay-per-views, big pay-per-views, opportunity after opportunity down the drain. Loss after loss at pay-per-views, and it's really getting silly now. Some people, I'm reading, some people are suggesting that, oh well, now maybe they can put Ryback in the mid card and maybe build him up, like this. And I'm thinking, why not just thrust him in right now? Why does he have to be thrown back down in the mid card? And it's a silly mentality. I look back at, and I'm not trying to make a comparison here, but I look back at a guy like Brock Lesnar in his early days, and the way they built him up, it was pretty nice. And when he was beating Hulk Hogan and The Rock, albeit they were at various times in their career, they were at times in their careers. Hogan was up there in age. What does he really have to do but put up people over? The Rock was getting more into he was starting to get into Hollywood. But so you'd have Brock Lesnar beat those guys within several months of his career, and it felt natural. You go on to face the Undertaker and beat him, Kurt Angle, and to me all was well. They could do the same here with Ryback, but I don't understand. They're so hesitant when it comes to this, and it's a shame. And to me, it just seems like yet another opportunity flushed down the toilet, and it's counterproductive. It's procrastination. The way I look at it, I don't know what they're waiting for. I mean, who knows? They might set up another match, but I'm just like, can we get the title around Ryback already or something, or what? Or is this just like, are we supposed to be making up for this year with John Cena for last year where he didn't have the WWE Championship? Like the 1 year in the past, like almost decade, that John Cena didn't have the WWE Championship, and now it's like, oh, we gotta pay, oh man, we're paying for it now. I mean, it's silly. I mean, and they take the title off Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler's a guy that people want to see shine. Del Rio, nobody cares for him to have the title. Nobody, like, it doesn't make sense. We want to see Dolph Ziggler shine with the World Heavyweight Championship, because he needs to shine to be a proverbial main eventer around here for some years to come. Ryback, it's the same. He's a different kind of character, heel, however you want to put it, but still, he's kind of like a sort of a Brock Lesnar-esque powerhouse in this day and age. People want to compare him to Goldberg, whatever. but he's this new, he's this new power guy, this monster heel right now, and I don't know. It's like WWE doesn't want to assert that, and if you don't, then you just we just continue to ride the John Cena merry-go-round and of counterproductivity on these guys that need to be built up. Um, that's the bottom line, and you know Daniel Bryan will eventually, hopefully, get built up again into the main event picture, but that doesn't mean we gotta have Ryback up there too, and eventually members of the Shield. We'll be waiting for them. We'll be, of course, Dolph Ziggler, hopefully, but again, there's been some too much counterproductivity that has kind of, pulled from the show a little bit, if you ask me. And this Payback pay-per-view was, to me, from what I've read from the results, it just was to me, not a very productive pay-per-view. It was only counterproductive, if you ask me, for the in general. You got Curtis Axel Intercontinental Championship. Way to go. That's about it. You announced that RVD was signed. That's great and all. That'll be good. And CM Punk and Chris Jericho had a great match, from what I hear. That's good. But with the titles and with the messages that WWE is sending us, they're sending us that Ryback he just can't be on in that John Cena level. That John Cena is on his own level, and that nobody else can really truly touch that level. Even though Cena will lose the championship eventually to somebody, perhaps in some cheap fashion again, as he tends to. That's the bottom line. And to me, the bottom line was that this pay-per-view, for the most part in general, they call it Payback, but, had I seen this pay-per-view, I probably would have thought, you know what, WWE, I want you to pay me back my money that I paid for this pay-per-view. Because it just, as far as results are concerned, which oftentimes is a lot around the pay-per-view. Extreme Rules, to me, a lot of the criticism I've had for Extreme Rules was because the silly finishes on like half the card and big matches especially. That definitely, to me, hurt that pay-per-view. They had some good matches, sure, but stupid finishes, bad results, however you want to put it. Results that are counterproductive. They just pull from pay-per-views like this, and it's a shame to me, but that's WWE's choosing. And I don't know if they're doing any kind of long-term planning or not, but they should start doing that, because they need to assess. They need to start setting goals for these newer guys. Not by whether or not they're torn in Mexico. Let's do this. Or we got let's see, we got we want to keep selling this John Cena merchandise with him as champion and blah blah blah. All right, you can keep operating like that, or you can start thinking more for the future, because the future, they keep pushing back the future, that could be the present for WWE, and the present could bring better things, but when you continue to have John Cena defend his title, or keep his title after silly finishes the way silly finishes like this, when you have this, like this constant itch of Alberto Del Rio, taking away what could be what could have been a good title reign. Big Show was having a good reign, I thought, as world champion. And then Del Rio takes it away in a silly fashion, and then you got Dolph Ziggler riding with the title, picking up momentum again, and then Del Rio comes by, takes the title. It's a shame. And, the Divas division, as I said, it just continues to kind of remain at the bottom of WWE's priorities when it comes to improving the product, and that's a shame. So, I guess we'll wait and see what happens on Raw. But obviously, I'm not very enthused to have hear John Cena come out the same old stale crap that with him as champion. Um, just I'm not looking too forward to it, but here on TWS, it's like a job to in my eyes to talk about this stuff even when it just to me is blah, it's counterproductive. You know, they don't they got CM Punk back, that's nice. Um, but other than that, I mean, I don't know. I'm not too enthused about what came out of this pay-per-view. Um, but I guess the good thing is I'm glad that I didn't buy it. Um, down the road, I'm sure I can always check out on YouTube. If anything, what I'd like to have seen. Maybe this Punk Jericho match. I don't know. But with that in mind, that'll wrap things up for this edition of TW Wrestling Talk. Um, until next edition following Raw this later this week, uh, we will discuss, I guess, whatever else is going on, whatever's worth discussing, and yeah, for now that'll wrap this edition of TW Wrestling Talk up. Thanks for listening as always, and again, continue to tune in. Maybe for more news, maybe any updates on expanding the show. Um, I'll keep everybody posted here, and obviously the next edition of TW Wrestling Talk is just a couple days around the corner. So stay tuned for that as always, and thank you again for tuning in.